Alright guys, welcome back to part 2 of making an obby. And today we're going to cover making a skip stage that's been disabled for this place. Oh, so we're going to have to enable third-party purchases. I'm going to go to security, game settings, then security, and allow third-party sales. Though this is something you should usually disable for your game, so I'm going to turn it off after. Because what happens is, if you have some free models, they might end up prompting your players to purchase weird stuff that isn't from your game. So make sure to turn it off after, unless you have a specific use for it. So I'm going to go back to test and start the server. Alright, so I'm in the game. I'm going to purchase a speed coil for 1 Robux. Alright, my purchase of speed coil has been approved. And I now have a speed coil in my inventory. Now I can run super fast with it. And when I die and I respawn, I'll still have the speed coil. And then this script over here ensures that when any new player joins or any returning player joins, they get the speed coil if they purchase the game pass. That wraps up part 2 of making an obby. I hope you guys enjoyed. Comment down below what you want me to make next. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.